Hello, devoted brothers and sisters in the Lord. Before the headlines, allegations, and significant public attention, Pastor Valerie Hart-well felt something was wrong. Pain was familiar to her. Valerie resides in Washington State and lost her husband, her life and ministry partner. That type of pain doesn't just fade away. When this happened, it had been almost 2 years since her spouse died. 2 long, heavy years without the person who had been by her side in every season of life. So when she saw what was occurring on Daystar's set, the rapid changes and how everything seemed strange, she couldn't deny what her spirit was telling her. She felt a horrible feeling, not just a notion or ache. It was profound. Something in her heart was worried by what she was watching on film. Most viewers might have seemed polished and professional, but Valerie felt off. As a widow who had experienced loss, she wanted to share her faith with another woman who claimed to have done the same. Pastor Valerie submitted a passionate letter to Daystar President Joni Lamb. She shared her ideas, concerns, and most significantly, warning. This was written with love and grief, not hatred or anger, seeking clarity and truth. This enhances its power. Valerie sent that letter before the internet scandals. Many questioned money, leadership, and ethics. Valor felt something was wrong then. She trusted that impulse and reached out. She warned, but it was either disregarded or not heard. That letter is vital to understand where it came from. Another critic in a sea. A widow speaks from experience about grieving, processing loss, and keeping faith in the darkest circumstances. Someone who observed another widow speaks. Joni Lamb seemed to start a fresh chapter in an odd way. She chose to speak up instead of judging from afar. Imagine being Valerie, still grieving your husband, seeing someone publicly say they've experienced the same thing but acting differently, not reflecting that pain. Valerie wrote her letter because of the alienation. Sometimes we forget how powerful letters are, personal, emotional, and honest messages. This was a private letter, not a blog post or radio rant. Valerie wanted to illuminate what she believed was incorrect, neither yelled nor accused. She softly but firmly addressed concerns about what she saw, which have now become key to a larger public conversation. So when you hear rant, this letter seems like the voice of someone who cared, tried to do the right thing early on, and wanted to draw attention to something before it burst. Valerie's voice wasn't groundbreaking then, but it is now. This letter reminds us that warnings are often given before storms, but not everyone listens. Let's hear Pastor Valerie Hart-well. Joni contacting you last Thanksgiving 2023. I emailed you widow to widow about my concerns with your sudden marriage. Your short romance shocked me because I was married for 29 years to Senior Pastor Roy Hart-well, who died in March 2023. Watching your engagement announcement and wedding with Jimmy Evans introducing Doug, I called Jimmy and you as Daystar president for slandering Doug's ex-wife to defend your marriage. Early on, Lisa Weiss requested that a whole broadcast be pulled down. Why? She considered it slander. That means she thought it was full of untrue and demeaning claims about her that made her appear bad. It says a lot for someone to contact out and say, hey, what you just aired to the world really hurt me and misrepresented who I am. People don't do that carelessly. Maybe not everyone saw the first broadcast. Some may have ignored it at the time, but Pastor Valerie Hart-well felt otherwise. She was grieving and didn't watch casually. She was going through one of the hardest seasons after losing her husband, her love. She was astonished when she saw Lisa depicted in such a harsh, one-sided light on that show. It was terrible to see, but she could feel the agony behind the scenes. She watched someone being harmed, probably unfairly, and it impacted her. She had profound sympathy because grief changes how you feel things. Once life breaks and humbles you. I called Dr. Doug out, as you like to call him, for not giving you and your children enough time to grieve and move from the loss of their father and grandfather before starting a new relationship. Doug, a psychologist, should not have invaded a mourning family and widow so early. Shame on him, but shame on you, a mother, grandmother, and president. Daystar, for allowing this sinful marriage to break apart your family. The irritating part is, professionals, especially ministers, should know better. You should act wisely and consider how your words affect others. Jimmy Evans and others talked about abuse and desertion in that program, making Lisa look like the villain in someone else's story. Her voice and inside are erased in a narrative, suit others' expectations, and that's wrong. You instantly wrote back to advise me not to compare your mourning timeline to mine. Such grief, Joni, After Doug's divorce, you started this romance within 6 months. You and your ally Tom cornered your son Jonathan to try to convince him that you grieved Marcus's death and published a book during the storm to prove how much you suffered as a widow, which is a lie. When I wrote you Thanksgiving 2023, I was unaware regarding internal strife Jonathan and Susie were going through for their little girl while you were sidelining them for your new husband. I called you out to clean up Doug's statement that Jesus died for us to have good sex, trying to tell you how hard it will be for SA children to get healed if they hear a Christian doctor say that. To the pedophile, pervert, or prostitute that would only validate their sin, I was informed by my mother that men are plenty, but you can never replace your kids for selfishness. You sent your kids to the curb for a guy that millions, including wise widows, have issue with your marriage to Doug, and using erroneous prophecies to defend your rapid remarriage is nonsense. Any prophecy should match the word. Sorry, Joni, but the prophecies you immediately grasped in your soul. You even justified your marriage in your book with the deepest self-deception. If you have any inner strength for your children, grandchildren, and Daystar for the suffering, cron for something you caused by acting selfishly instead of the Lord's will, take time off for ministry with you and Doug to heal intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. Your spouse, Dr. Doug, is an excellent psychologist, and he can assist you past Daystar's leadership to your son Jonathan and his wife, Susie, as a loving mother. Help your children, granddaughter, and grandchildren accomplish their God-given destiny and future for Daystar, answers and the Lord before burying it. Pastor Valerie Hart-well, Jesus Unlimited Church WA State. Next is wild, so let's chat about Joni Lamb. Joni said she received prophetic words to justify her decisions, notably her fast remarriage. Pause for a moment. Christian prophets believe they've heard from God and want to communicate it. That's big. It should be sacred and truthful. Joni relied on Shannon for prophetic words. Sounds familiar? Shannon allegedly planted a GPS tracker on Jonathan's car, Joni's late husband, and then lied to him when he got caught. People concerned say that's not speculation. Jonathan confronted Shannon after seeing the film, and Shannon tried to play it off with a phone conversation like, "Oh no, he saw me. He knows the secret spy," and Brown's gargulate. Joni trusted lying for spiritual advice. Take that in. How did Joni explain it properly on set with me during a ministry episode? At Easter 2022, before she remarried, she told me part of this. She acknowledged people's distress. People were sending her letters and messages, but instead of carefully considering their worries, she kept saying she had received prophetic confirmations from God. Others, Shannon made a prediction. Joni stated he couldn't see a face but heard laughter. He saw the chuckle in his vision, experience, or whatever. Doug Weiss laughed. Joni's future husband Shannon believed God confirmed her future marriage based on that chuckle. You may not agree, but that sounds shaky. Have you ever heard someone laugh and use that as your spiritual compass for a life-changing decision? Not foretell, wishful thinking at best, manipulation at worst. To be honest, someone heard a laugh and felt something spiritual. To justify remarriage months after your husband's death is shaky. It's irresponsible, especially for Joni, who leads a ministry watched by thousands or millions of followers seeking spiritual advice. The fact that Joni justified everything with these prophetic words is even more terrible. She held on to these prophecies like shields against criticism even when people were harmed. Trust was broken, and the story didn't make sense. Call it what it is, malarkey. Nonsense disguised as spirituality. Just because someone says God told me doesn't make it untouchable. Pastor Valerie looked at all of this with grief and honesty, seeing the harm, deceptive words and twisted words, prophecies. She could not sit quietly. She spoke up because she witnessed spiritual reasons for injustice and individuals being neglected and mistreated. This narrative is about the difference between using faith to benefit people and protect authority. When someone exploits their position to silence others or push an untruthful narrative, they harm their reputation, damage people's faith, break hearts, and make people question everything they thought they believed in. It all started with a lie. Program that should never have aired, a transmission that greatly hurt a broadcast, that demonized Lisa Weiss. The worst aspect is that it could have been averted if the leaders had listened, cared, and lived their wisdom.